you and Emilio were talking about, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And first, I want to absolutely give a shout out to where we got this information. If you guys are listening or need to listen to a podcast, especially over the weekend when a lot of times you don't have a lot of new stuff to listen to, go back, find the Athletic Football Podcast. It's a great podcast. I listen to it almost every single day that they put one out. It's hosted by a gentleman named Robert Mays and Drew Clausen. And I just think they do a really good job covering the NFL in general. And every now and then they'll do a deep dive segment where they really look at the numbers and kind of dissect a certain team or a certain player. And they decided to go with about a 30-minute segment in this last episode. I believe it dropped Thursday. It's, again, the Athletic Podcast. That segment was called, or the episode was called Lingering Questions Going into the 2025 season. And the big lingering question was, what is Jordan Love? What was he in the last year, but specifically the last year? Did he take a step up? Did he take a step back? And what do they project him like in the future? And I got to tell you, it was a very interesting episode. Me and Emilio both listened to it in different ways. I was joking around because listening to the podcast, here I am taking all these notes. I re-listened to it many times, trying to kind of key in on some key points and some stats. And here I looked back, and Emilio had listened to it before I even did and sent a very good screenshot of kind of some highlights that he thought were interesting, and I agree completely. So I don't honestly even know where to start because there's so much information in here, but I'll just maybe take a stab at it and throw some stats out there, and then we can maybe take a step back and look at what those stats mean. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sounds good to me, man.
All right, cool. So, and again, like Clayton said, it's maybe the hidden good season that we saw out of Jordan Love. Now, when I read off some of these stats, you have to put the asterisk that he played hurt most of this year, and most of that injury was in that lower body, which completely limited his ability to rush, move out of the pocket, scramble, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to start with a stat that absolutely blew my mind. That Jordan Love last year, his scramble percentage, this is over the last 2 years, guys. Over the last 2 years, his quarterback scramble percentage rate ranks 38th in the league. Just before him is Jameis Winston. Right behind him is Jacoby Brissett. Now, I don't have to tell you that that's not good, right? And he specifically even mentioned that at the end of the year, apparently when he was talking to the guys from the Athletic Podcast, and he immediately said, I needed to run more this year. I did not help our quarterback, our team with the way that I ran quarterback and couldn't run the ball, sort of thing. So that to me was an absolute shock, because when you look at Jordan Love, we're not saying he's, a 10 RAS, but the guy's athletic. They even made the argument, and you guys, I'd love to hear it in the chat. They compared Jordan Love is much more athletic than a Pat Mahomes, but Pat Mahomes is a much better scrambler than probably any other quarterback other than maybe Lamar that's on the planet right now. So I guess we saw glimpses of what Jordan Love can do with his legs, but they kind of made the argument that he has more of that Brett Favre, where he doesn't want to take the check down. He doesn't want to scramble. He'd rather force the ball. We see it even with like that Rams pass. It's triple coverage. He's rather just, let's throw it up. Let's give it up there. I'd like to ask you, Clay, would you like to see him take the check down more? Would you like to see him throw it away more? Or do you like the type of player? Do you like the type of talent that he is, and just accept the fact that we're going to get some flaws with the way that Jordan Love plays football?
Yeah. The answer is yes. And here's what I mean by that is everything is situational. As Pat McAfee says, situations are situational, right? Like it depends on where you're at in the game. It depends on what the score is. It depends on, the team you're playing. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? All those things come into factor there. So for me, it's not just as simple as, and not that you're saying this, Jake, I'm just kind of thinking it through. It's not as simple as saying, I want him to push the ball down the field more. Or it's not as simple as saying, I want him to check down more. It's every play is different. We're going to talk some play diagram here in a minute. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the whole theme of the show is going to be kind of X's and O's based, that type of thing. So like, for example, if you're in a 3rd and 7 situation, and it's a tie ball game, right? I don't want Jordan forcing the ball down the field. If you've got a check down, take it, right? Now, go back to the Eagles game where you're down a couple of score and a half, maybe, 10 points, whatever it was, 14 points, and nothing is kind of working for your offense, and you get a one-on-one matchup with Dontavion Wicks, and I can't remember who the corner was, and ended up intercepting the ball on the outside. I agree with that shot there. When he threw that interception, I said, good decision. Give your guy a chance there. And Dontavion Wicks got to do a better job of fighting for that ball. In that specific situation in the game, what we call the game flow aspect of calling the game and making decisions as a quarterback or a head coach, is you've got to decide, all right, what's best for the game plan at the specific moment. It might be something where you're leading by 3 and the offense is the opposing offense has been absolute cheeks all day. You know what? Take the check down. Make them convince you they can beat you type thing. And that's why like I'm a little more you guys will hear me say middle eight, middle eight, middle eight all season long. And the reason being is because if you protect that middle eight, you control the momentum of the game. Like, for instance, if you go back and watch the game where the Packers lost to Chicago, horrible decision before halftime by Matt LaFleur. He got too aggressive. Now, it's easy to just roast Matt for someone like me to be the boring fan I am to roast Matt LaFleur in that situation. But there's way more fans that go, I want us to be aggressive. I want us to put the throttle down. I look at it totally different. It's like control the middle eight, win the turnover differential, put yourself in a position that if it takes the last drive of the game to win the ball game, you're in the game. And that's why I kind of subscribe to the whole approach of make sure you're in every game as opposed to getting too cute, too flashy, and trying to bomb the ball deep all the time. It doesn't mean you don't take it when it's there. And a big misconception about the West Coast offense from the day it was founded, when it actually should have been called the Midwest offense, with Bill Walsh created it on a weaker arm quarterback in Cincinnati when he was the OC there. Way back in the 80s, actually the late 70s, I believe. The West Coast offense has a shot on just about every call, right? People think it's just check down, check down, check down. No, you check down when it calls for it. But just about every play call, there's a shot on that play that if they show the right coverage, bomber deep. I don't know if that answered your question or not, but to me, it's situational. Is how I would answer.
No, that totally does. And just so you guys know, and like Holmes says, it makes me mad that some fans seem to doubt Jay Love 10. He's a very good quarterback. I'm starting with more of the negative, quote unquote, negative stats. You'll be pleasantly surprised. I'm going to lean back towards that way to kind of highlight that even with the injury, I think we're sleeping on how well he really did. Just to bounce off of what Clayton said there, though, the Packers last year were 23rd in check down throws, and then they graded as a check down throw was within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage or 2.75 seconds from the snap is basically how they categorize a check down. Even with that metric there, 8 quarterbacks obviously were higher than Jordan Love there, but some of the quarterbacks that were ranked below him in that metric were Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, Josh Allen, and Jaden Daniels. Now, I love the point the guy made. He goes, well, what do they all have in common? The guy says, well, they are the check down. Like, they don't need to look for another running back because they can scramble. They can get themselves out of that situation.
And that's what we call the six-back offense. That's what we call the six-back offense.
Exactly. And so it just kind of did maybe highlight certain areas where Jordan Love's game, when it does improve, because I really do think it will, because, again, this season – his injuries, which were many and multiple, most of them had to do with his lower body. He knew that. I mean, you watched him. He was kind of a shell of himself as far as, he reminded me of that game when Aaron Rodgers went out with the knee and he came back in, and yeah, he's playing, but you could tell he's ginger. He's not planting. He's not stepping back fully. He's not completely throwing into each throw. That's how Jordan Love played all year. And he played so kind of skittish because I believe he knew that the season had to do whether or not he stayed in the game in many ways. And I don't think he was willing to sacrifice his body in ways that I think he normally would want to play. So that's all I'll say. And now we'll shift it maybe towards some of this, the stats that are really impressive. I will say one more dark thing is even in week 11 to week 17, when he was quote unquote on, that was probably his best stretch of the year. He still had a worse scramble rate than Tua Tagovailoa, which, if you guys know anything about it, I mean, Tua is consistently towards the bottom of that. So that is definitely a massive, massive area of improvement that I think is going to happen, even if he doesn't intentionally focus on it, just from him being healthy. So going forward, then this is where I'll look back at Emilio's notes. The Packers offense last year, 3rd in passing DVOA. They were 12th in passing success rate. They had definitely a little bit of volatility, as he notes here, and that was, again, has to do with a lot of the inconsistency from the injuries. The drop pass rate was unbelievably large for the Packers wide receivers, the most in the league, and I think they did it by a lot from number 1 to number 2. I think they even had like 5 more drops than the next player. I mean, they were pathetic. But here's the next greatest thing: the 3rd highest explosive pass rate in the league, second only to the Ravens and the Lions, which I thought was unbelievable. 28 in third down success rate, 26th in EPA per play on third down, but in 2023 they were 6th and 6th in both of those percentages. So basically on first and second down, we were able to move the ball quite easily, almost to the point where we were one of the best in the league. As soon as we hit that third down, because of the drops, we absolutely shot ourselves in the foot. It was just untenable. And we were so good. And like I said, in 2023, we're sixth and ranked sixth in both of those different metrics. And then we were also sixth in pass success rate and EPA per play drop back on early downs. Like I said, the first and second downs, we were money. And I remember watching that. The game just seemed like it would stall at random times, and we didn't quite understand as to why. And
I want to say this, Jake. I want to roast myself for a second. That I keep track of first down incompletions. They drive me absolutely freaking crazy because when you're playing second and 10 as opposed to second and 7 or second and 6, you're shooting yourself in the foot. However, statistically speaking, first down is the most successful down to pass on. So it's like that love-hate relationship. I didn't mean to cut you off, but as you said that, I always get frustrated, but I have to remind myself that is the best down to pass on.
Yep. And then we were dealing with a lot of 40% man on third down, and Jordan Love really struggled against zero coverage, which I guess I never really put that together. Can you explain real quick to what zero coverage is to people that maybe when they hear that doesn't really
absolutely
pop off the screen for them?
You'll hear terms like cover 2, cover 1, cover 4, cover 6, cover 9, cover 3, all these different type of coverages, right? I like to specify man if it's man. So like cover one man, when you say cover one man, that means you've got one deep safety, somebody playing deep post, right? And everybody's man across the board, man coverage. Okay. When you say cover 2, you have to specify cover 2 zone or cover 2 man, meaning 2 deep safeties with deep half responsibilities and man coverage across the board underneath. With cover 2 zone, you've got 2 deep half responsibilities and you got 5 underneath playing, curl flat, hook curl, all that stuff underneath. When you say cover zero means all out blitz, meaning there is you'll hear me refer to it as goose. Like when I was coming up learning football and learning from different coaches, they would call it goose, meaning goose egg. There's nothing up top. It's just straight man coverage. There's no safety help up top whatsoever. Now, typically what that means is they're firing a blitz from somewhere. And a lot of times what they'll do is play press man coverage, jam your guys at the line because they think that the blitz can hit home. So when you say cover zero, what that means is nobody deep. It's man coverage across the board. It's typically you can take a shot, but your quarterback's probably going to get smacked in the mouth. And some defenses will play cover zero from a run blitz standpoint. Like they're doing it to stop the run first and foremost to make sure that you got one hat in every gap across the board. But that's what cover zero is.
Yep. Perfect. So, and that kind of just rounded out as far as what they said with stats, but then they did want to talk about how Jordan Love is a unique type of quarterback where he is going to play the way he's going to play. They reference kind of how has a little bit of that Brett Favre in him. And they said, there's certain things that you maybe won't be able to just coach out of him, but there's certain things you just can't coach into him. And I believe it was Robert Mays kind of said, he goes, he's just one of those quarterbacks that 3 out of 4 times he'll make a great decision. And then that 4th time, you're biting your cheek, you're biting your lip, you're scratching your head. But even then, half and half of the time, like with that the Rams throw, you see a flash of greatness. And he said, he goes, I don't want to take that away from him. I don't want to coach that out of him. Mm-hmm. And you have to take the good with the bad. And I think there is way more good than with the bad. They also went on to highlight that he played with an offensive line that was a little bit suspect, which if you have a quarterback that's hurt, trying to not, scramble around, obviously that's going to lead to some problems. They definitely highlighted how the right guard position got a little bit weak as this year went on, and then they highlighted how when they lost Elton Jenkins, it was basically game over. And one thing which kind of made myself perk up a little bit, and I wanted to critique it and push back, but I wanted to get your say on it. I believe it was Drew Clausen. He said, "I love Zach Tom. Zach Tom seems like an all-pro player." He says he looks like a Pro Bowler till he faces one. Mm-hmm. And I went, "Damn, that's a critique."
What that tells you is he is a very good to great offensive lineman. Not now PFF. If all you do is look at PFF, you go, "He's elite. He's elite." This is what I think Adam Stenavich and Luke Butkus were talking about at the pressers this week, and I heard Jason Wilde and Mark Tauscher talking about it as well. Tauscher and Bulaga broke down the tape. He did not play well at the end of the year. Zach Tom did. And that's why I think you're going to see that number kind of drop a little lower than what the elite tackles are getting paid because you're only worth your most recent games, right? I want Zach Tom to be on this team for the future. I want to make sure I'm very crystal clear on that. However, what you just said is 100% spot on. Like when he goes up against elite talent, he doesn't erase that elite talent. It's not like he folds up and plays horrible, but when you're going to pay somebody top 3, top 5 tackle money, they damn sure better be able to stop somebody that's top 3, top 5 at the position across from them, whether it's a 3 tech, a 4 5 tech, or even a wide 9 edge defender.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it wasn't like, it was basically exactly what you said. He said that Zach Tom is a very good tackle, very serviceable, that most teams would want as their starting guy. It's just like you said, when he goes against the Max Crosbys, enter very good pass rusher here. He did. I mean, they said that, who was it that, the linebacker Nolan Smith from Philly ate his lunch that whole game, just kind of and you could see that it was something that they're, and again, the whole point of this segment for me and for Clay and for the Packer fans is not to throw shade on them. I think it's more to highlight what they did great and to show that they actually can improve on it if things go well. I really do believe that. But we can't just be cherry picking and be, glossy eyed Packer fans and not call out stuff. We always say, if you see something, say something. So that was kind of the point of this segment here. And I hope it opened it up, and I really do want you guys to go back and listen to it. It's 30 minutes of full-on Packer content on a national podcast, and I love that type of stuff. And I thought that they did a great job, both the guys, of really getting to know the franchise and kind of seeing where we're at. I hate it when people will sit there and talk about a team's future projection, where they see them and they pronounce it Romeo Dubs. And I'm like, you don't know this team, you don't know what you're talking about. And anyways, I thought they did a good job of that. So if you guys get a chance, go back again. It's the Athletic Podcast. I believe this episode dropped on Thursday. It's called Lingering Questions. If you started at about minute marker around 34, you'll get right into that Jordan Love section. So
got it. Yeah. And again, it doesn't mean that we all have to agree with what they say either. Don't take it the wrong way. Like, for instance, if they're talking about the offensive line not playing that good for a game or two, absolutely. But the reality is quarterback pressure percentage, according to Next Gen Stats, GPS tracking, and NFL Pro, Jordan Love had the 11th most time to throw. Quarterback pressure percentage, he was pressured 30.8% of the time of his dropbacks last year. That was 11th best in the league. So just keep that in mind as well. Like they're probably looking at the more recent games down the stretch too. Like, man, the offensive line kind of fell apart. It's why we said as soon as the Philly game was over, we better build some damn depth with this offensive line. We better have it. So, that's why we got to get Elton Jenkins a little more guaranteed money, get him into camp and get that taken care of there for sure. So, and it doesn't mean you're going to keep Elton for the next 3 years. I hear some people saying, give him a 4-year extension. I'm not on that. I'm not on board there. I'm simply saying, let's convert some base salary to signing bonus, give him a little bit more guaranteed money, have him for at least 2 more years. And if he looks like he can be a Jason Kelsey and play for a couple more years, then you extend him, right? And if he wants to hold out and thinks he needs a contract till he's 35, that's where we got a problem. And that's where you might want to buck up and say, hey, bub, you're just going to have to play on the contract you got and get your ass into camp, that type of thing. So let's go to the chat real quick, see what everybody's saying. Chris Casualian says, I think Good is questioning whether to pay Tom. Just my gut feeling. I don't know if he's questioning whether to pay him, Chris. And I think you're probably saying the same thing I'm thinking. It's how much. It's fair market value, right? Yeah. Like that $20 million, I don't think Goot would have a problem paying him $20 million average annual value. Now, you guys know that can be manipulated with the guaranteed money and the incentives and this and that, but it's kind of that median line. $30 million a year? No, Goody. I don't think Goody's interested in paying that personally. So I think we're on the same page there. J. Cole says, I'm not worried about J. Love scrambling. He was injured last year. I think we will scramble more this year. I completely agree. If you go back and watch the 2023 tape, he was a dog scrambling. Like, there were so many plays that he made. I remember, I think it was it the Saints game or maybe no, the Vikings game. You remember the Vikings game? I think it was New Year's Eve where he dove over the goal line and landed on his head or whatever. Like, my man was scrambling. Last year, it was not there because of the injuries, no doubt.
Yeah.
Coach Lynn, a lot of time Tom has no tight end help. He's on an island. That's tough for any tackle. It's so true, Coach. And Tauscher and Bulaga talk about this all the time when they talk. It's like you can take an offensive, you can take an edge defender, and they can have a handful of good plays, and they're considered elite. Yeah. You can take the same offensive lineman that blocks those guys, and they can have just a handful of bad plays, and they're horrible. Right? Like offensive linemen, especially someone like Tom, because they did not give him chip help most of the time. They really didn't. So you're on an island, you're going to give stuff up. And Zach Tom played great. Don't get me wrong. But When you said that they mentioned against elite talent, against elite defenses, I noticed that as well. It was like he's not there yet. He's still young too.
Yeah,
He was a fourth round
pick. Yeah.
So yeah, you got to put that into perspective. And I guarantee you, Goody's looking at it that way too, because whether we like it or not, Brian Gutekunst and most, if not all, GMs in the league, when a free agent becomes available, they're going to look at what they did in the league. But the very first thing they go to is the draft grade they had on that player. So at the end of the day, they love Zach Tom just like we do. I guarantee you they do. However, at the end of the day, Goody's also looking at a fourth round grade on him. It's not like one of these guys like a Jordan Morgan that we had a first round grade on that obviously got hurt last year. So just keep that in mind as well. H.E. Soder says, how limited was the Packers blocking scheme by Myers? Help had to flow inside. See, that's the other thing too, is you're probably getting, if you have a chip, if you have a tight end helping block, I can see it being something where Tom's a little more aware of a stunt inside where he can bend inside, but also you have the running back helping chip inside, then leak out. That type of thing. We would line. Sometimes we would pre-motion. We do a little cheat motion with the tight end to get him underneath, and then yo-yo him back to help inside chip and then leak out and that type of thing. So I think you're spot on there as well. Good stuff though, Jacob. I'm glad you hit on all that, man. That was a good segment there for sure. So just a little Jordan Love talk, and again, go check that out, guys, and let us know in the comments what you thought about that pod that they put together. Now, in terms of, I will say this with Jordan Love before we move on. One of the things that we talk about is EPA and EPA per dropback for quarterbacks. That's like the advanced metric on how well a quarterback played. 3 injuries last year, right, that he battled through all year long. Starting in week 1, this wasn't something, he played like crap, and then week 8 he gets hurt. No, week freaking 1, he hurt his knee, right? He finished 13th in the league at a plus 0.07 EPA per dropback. He was borderline top 10 in EPA per dropback, even battling those 3 injuries all year long. So I think that is, it's important to be fair in that regard and mention that type of thing. So, all right, let's move it along to, let's talk a little